Can I read you a story, my love? Would that be all right? Yeah, Grandpa? Will you make room for me? Thank you, sir. That's so nice of you. Okay. Ready, Grandpa? Oh, of course. Yes, yes. Yeah? Of course. Yes, of course. Do you want to get settled in? Yeah? Do you want to get settled in so I can read you a story? Yeah? Yes, of course. Grandpa, do you want to sit? Oh, this is my good man. Yeah. Do you wanna sit down? Oh, okay. Okay. Once you get comfortable, we'll start reading, okay? That's my good man. Okay. You ready? Let's read a story, shall we? The Three Spinning Fairies. There was once a young girl who was so idle that she hated work, and let her mother say what she would, nothing would induce her to spin. At last she became so angry that she was determined to try what effect a good flogging would have. But at the first blow, the girl set up such a loud screaming that the queen, who was passing near, stopped to inquire what was the matter. She even alighted from her carriage and stopped into the house and said, "Why are you beating your daughter? Her screams are heard by people in the street." The mother was ashamed to expose the laziness of her daughter and said, "I can't get her away from the spinning wheel, and we're too poor to provide her with flax." "Oh," answered the queen, "there's nothing more pleasant to me than the sound of spinning. The humming of the wheel delights me. Give me your daughter. I will take her to the castle. I have plenty of flax, and she will spin as much as she likes." The mother was in her heart quite overjoyed at this proposal, and glad to allow the queen to take the maiden away with her. As soon as they arrived at the castle, the queen took the idle girl into the 3 rooms that were all quite full of beautiful flax. "Spin me this flax," she said, "and as soon as it is finished, come to me, and I will give you my eldest son for your husband. Although you may be poor, I don't care for that. Your unwearied industry is sufficient dowry." The maiden was in a terrible fright when she heard this, because she knew she could never spin all that flax if she worked every day from morning till night for 100 years. And as soon as she was alone, she began to cry. At the end of 3 days, when the queen came to see her, she had not raised her hand to begin the task. The queen was quite surprised, but the maiden excused herself by saying she felt so unhappy at leaving her mother's home that she knew not how to begin. The queen accepted the excuse, but as she left the room, she said in a pointed manner, "You had better begin tomorrow morning to work." When the young girl found herself alone, she knew that she was quite unable to even begin this task. She rose in her trouble and walked to the window. She stood out looking mournfully, and she saw 3 strange-looking women coming towards her. One had a broad, flat foot, the second had such a large underlip that it hung over the chin, and the third had an enormous thumb. These 3 women placed themselves before the window, looked up at the maiden, and asked her what was the matter. She was in such trouble that she could not help telling them all about it, and they immediately offered to assist her. "You must promise," said one, "that we shall be invited to your wedding and allowed to sit at your table. You must agree to call us your cousins without being ashamed of us. If you will do this, we will come in and spin your flax in a very short time." "I promise with all my heart," said the girl, "so come and set to work at once." She opened the window as she spoke, and let the 3 strange-looking women come into the first flax chamber, where they seated themselves and quickly commenced spinning. The first turned the wheel, drew out the thread. The other moistened it, while the third twisted it with her finger on the table, and as she twisted, there fell on the ground skein after skein of the finest spun flax. The queen came every day, as usual, to see how the work was getting on. But the maiden took care to hide the 3 spinners, showed her each time so many skeins of the finest thread that she went away quite astonished. When the first room was empty, they went to the second, and at last to the third, till all the flax was spun into beautiful thread, and the maiden's task was finished. Then the 3 women bade her farewell, saying, "Don't forget what you have promised. It will bring you good fortune." When the queen came and saw the empty rooms and the quantity of the skeins of thread, she was delighted, and fixed the day on which the marriage was to take place. The prince, who had seen the maiden and heard how clever and industrious she was, felt quite overjoyed at the prospect of such a wife, and soon learned to love her dearly. Just before the wedding day, he asked his bride if she wished for any favor to be granted to her. "Yes," she replied. "I have 3 cousins who have been very kind to me, and I should not like to forget them in the midst of my good fortune. Will you permit me to invite them to the wedding and to give them seats at our table?" The queen and the prince both replied that they should have no reason to object. So the 3 strange women were invited. On the wedding day, they came in great pomp and beautifully dressed, but this could not conceal their defects. The bride gave them the most kind reception, saying, "Welcome, dear cousins." But the bridegroom was surprised, and he exclaimed, However have you come to have such ugly acquaintances?" And then he went up to them, addressing the first. He asked, "How did it happen that you have such a broad foot?" "From turning the spinning wheel," she replied. He turned away, and he inquired of the second the cause of her overhanging lip. "From moistening the thread with my lips," was the reply. "And your thumb?" he asked the third. "What makes it such a size?" "From drawing and twisting the thread," she answered. "Then," said the bridegroom, "if these are the consequences of turning the spinning wheel, my beautiful bride shall never touch it again with her hands or feet, or the thread with her lips, as long as she lives." So the young maiden was set free from the work she disliked, because she had remembered her promise, and was not ashamed to own those who had helped her in her trouble.